What's up people, welcome back to my channel, and today's video we're going to be talking about all things porosity. What is it and how to work out what porosity you are. Later in the video I'll be showing you the 3 tests that you can do to determine what hair porosity you have on your head. However, let's first get started about the basics. So porosity is the hair's ability to retain and absorb moisture, i.e. water. You have 3 types of hair porosity: high, medium and low porosity. High porosity cuticles lay open, so this means that water is absorbed easily, but it is also let out very easily as well, which can be problematic due to dryness and sometimes tangling, etc. If you have high porosity hair, it can be caused by a number of things. One of these being environmental factors, another one being chemical or heat damage, and the last one being that it is just pure genetics. Normal porosity hair is the easiest to maintain. This is because the cuticles are not too open and not too closed, and that means that products can get absorbed easily, retained well, and then overall moisture and protein can be fairly easy to balance. The last porosity is low porosity. Now a lot of curly, kinkier hair types do have low porosity hair, and low porosity hair is probably one of the hardest out of the 3 to figure out how to maintain and get moisture into the cuticles, and that's because the cuticles lie very tight together, almost flat and packed. So that just means that it takes a little bit of extra work to get the moisture into the hair, because before you apply your moisture you're going to need to open the cuticle slightly with some sort of warm water or steam, etc. if you are in the shower. But not to worry, if you have low porosity there are lots of things you can do, and I do post a lot of tips and products that you can use on my socials, so make sure you go and give those a follow for more information. So now you know a little bit more about the basics of hair porosity, I'm going to show you 3 different tests that you can do to test your hair porosity, and you'll want to take hair from different areas of the head, because often you can have more than one porosity on your hair. For example, my hair towards these parts, the front, is a normal porosity, but when I get to the crown area it's a little bit drier and a little bit more of a high porosity. So me personally, I have a medium to high porosity hair. So let's start with the water test. So with this test you want to make sure you put a clean strand of hair into room temperature water. Make sure the hair is clean and the water is room temperature, as this can have an effect on your overall results. Take different strands from different parts of the head, as hair can have a numerous amount of porosities on one head. I like to make sure I push the hair into the water, just because in the past when I've done this test and I've not pushed the hair into the water, it has stayed at the top and the hair has not been saturated. So immediately you can see that the hairs have travelled to the bottom of the jug. This would indicate that I have high porosity hair, but I'm going to leave it for a little while to see if anything changes. If you have high porosity hair, the hair will float straight to the top of the jug. If it's medium porosity, it will sit somewhere in the middle, and high porosity, it will just remain at the bottom of the jug. Another thing to note with this test is you want to wait a little while before you remove the hairs and decide what porosity it is, because as you can see in this glass, the hairs have started to float back into the middle of the jug. So they are not now sitting right at the bottom as they were at the beginning. They've floated back up to the top. So I would say these hairs are definitely looking like they are more of the normal porosity hair type. Okay, so the second test you can do is the strand test, and what you want to do is you want to get a couple of pieces of hair. I've just taken this strand from my hairbrush, and you want to just pass your fingers along the hair strand. Now what you are feeling for when you do this is any ridges, any bumps, or is the hair strand quite smooth as you run your fingers along it. More than likely, if you have bumps and an uneven surface of the hair, you are looking at more of a high porosity hair strand. And the last test you can do is the characteristics test. Now you want to just observe generally what your hair behaves like over the week, especially during wash day and when you're applying your products and your moisturizers, and you want to take note of how the products absorb into the hair. If you know that your hair, for example, doesn't take a long time to get wet in the shower, if the water just automatically seeps into your hair and it gets wet really quickly, that is more of a high porosity or normal porosity characteristic. Or if your hair takes a long time to let the water in and the water beads on the hair for quite a while, and maybe your hair doesn't get saturated with water quickly, that is more of a low porosity hair characteristic. Also, when you're applying products, you want to take note of how the products go onto and in the hair. Does it automatically go into the hair, or do you have like a white build-up for a little while before the products actually get absorbed into your hair strands? So obviously if you have no problem with absorbing the hair products, that is definitely more of a normal to high porosity hair type. However, if the products sit on your hair for a little bit, or they may create some sort of build-up, then you are more than likely going to have low porosity hair. You also want to pay attention to if your hair is sensitive to protein, as a lot of low porosity hair types cannot take a lot of protein in hair products, and if you are one of these people, then you want to avoid that in your ingredients list. However, if you have a high or normal porosity hair, protein will not affect how your hair responds to that. And in addition to this, there are a lot of characteristics that high porosity versus low porosity hair can behave like, but also there are a lot of crossovers. So you want to really just pay attention to your overall hair behaviour, and don't get bogged down with categorising your hair into porosity too much. Just go by what works. If an ingredient doesn't work with your hair, stop using it or avoid it, but if it does, that's fine. If you're a low porosity curly girl and you use some high porosity hair products, that's fine as well. It's not to say that you shouldn't use those or you should avoid those, because every hair type needs some sort of balance of protein and moisture, but obviously you need to gauge that as to what your hair can handle. So I'll quickly run through a few characteristics of high porosity versus normal porosity hair. So high porosity hair will get dry very easily. However, low porosity hair can also get dry very easily if you do not put the steps in place to moisturise it thoroughly. So i.e., before you apply your moisturiser, you want to open the cuticle, make sure your hair is wet, use warm water, or apply your stylers and product in the shower so we already know the cuticle is open and ready to receive moisture. Secondly, high porosity hair may get tangled very easily due to its dryness. So with that hairstyle, with that hair porosity, you want to try and minimise the amount of manipulation you place on the hair, as it could cause breakage, and incorporate more low manipulation and protective styling into your regimen, whereas low porosity hair may not tangle as easily depending on how well it has been moisturised. High porosity hair also is, as I've mentioned, not too sensitive to protein. With that, you want to incorporate more regular protein treatments, whereas low porosity hair, you may only want to do that once a month, depending on the strength of the protein treatment. Now, as you can see, there are a few crossovers between the two hair porosities, as they both can be very dry, especially if you have type 4, 4A, 4B or 4C hair, which generally will be a lot more delicate and will get drier easier than the type 3 curly girls. So the main thing to look out for is make sure you know what ingredients your hair likes or what it doesn't like. Make sure you observe the characteristics of your hair and how it behaves to water, particularly wash day and other products. And obviously you can also do the water test, however sometimes it can be unreliable. I wouldn't prioritise that test over the other test just just because of that reason. It can give a little bit of a confusing result. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel to see more hair education, mixing products and product reviews from me. Go ahead and follow me on TikTok and Instagram to keep up to date with all of my daily postings, and I will see you in the next video.